Okay, so just kind of update and aside on problems I've had um, or problems I've managed to avoid. So it's kind of mid-June. Today's the 15th, so it's exactly the end of the first half of June. Had a really busy day today. I think 8 classes, which is a lot. Thursdays have worked out to be my busiest days, but I don't mind because that's one of the nice things about having your own show, so to speak, is the more you work, the more comes in. Literally, there's no quotas or anything about it. Once you've crossed what it takes to pay for your own overhead, um, the rest is yours and your family's. So that's a good thing, and makes the super busy days much more bearable. So, anyways, all that aside, the school itself is kind of just slowly but surely growing. We just kind of passed the apex of the spring rush, and I'm hoping to get a few more inquiries, a few more students in the door in the next few weeks, but heading into July, it's probably going to slow down a bit, and then August is notoriously slow. And then there'll be the autumn push, which is when I'm going to start teaching Saturdays, which should, over the course of a few months, excuse me, really help with revenue up until, well, even now I've been working another job um, on the weekends, which ties up my weekdays. And if you can, I would really recommend finding something part-time to supplement you while you build up your student numbers and get your school on its feet, because it takes a lot of the stress away and just gives you a little something to fall back on, which is really helpful. Some people say, when you start a business, you've got to go all in and, cut cut all support and just do it. I don't know. I mean, I imagine maybe I would be busier now if I had done that, but I also would have gone through a lot more suffering, I think. So, be that as it may, come this autumn, I'm gonna jump over to Saturdays as well. Just shift my schedule one day to the right, so to speak, and give up Mondays and then open Saturdays, and that should really bring things in. But it's gonna take a little while, of course, as it always does, to build up the classes. But it's just a matter of sticking with it and really just doing it. That's the secret. So things are going well, and I'm hoping they're going to get better. So to the aside on problems, I haven't had a lot, and I've been pretty fortunate in that regard. I think a lot of that boils down to preparation, and preparation can kind of be divided into research I've done into the business model itself. What separates a good English school from a bad English school, choosing the location, and then also because this is a foreign country for me, getting familiar with the language and then the culture, which is crucial if you really want to keep your overhead and expenses to a minimum. It's advisable to avoid hiring staff initially. I was able to do that, and a lot of that just comes down to the effort I put in over the years, learning the language and kind of paying a little bit of attention to what's happening around me, which is always a useful thing and tends to pay off. Also, I'm married to a local and I have kids, so that really ties me into the community in a way that would be difficult to equal if I were just some guy that tried to open a school without any real connection to the area, and especially without a Japanese face. So it's something to be considered, as much of an obstacle and frustration as it may be. You know, I'm in the Japanese people's country. Can't really do much about that. So okay, to the problems I faced. Most of them have had to deal with things like administration and time management. You're really gonna have to stay on top of that. And by administration and time management, I mean you're talking about everything: cleaning the school, stocking it with things for the bathroom, office supplies, staying on top of power bills and student payments. There's a lot of extra little busy work that kind of adds up, and really has to be done. But that's true with any business. So it helps, I think, to really kind of just sort it out in the beginning and put in the extra time and develop a system. I didn't really do that quite as well as I should have. I was much more focused on just getting students in and filling the schedule and focusing on classes, which is understandable, but the other stuff really counts, especially when tax time comes. You really want to have things organized in a way that you can claim as many deductions as you can and qualify for other deductions the government allows based on how organized and cohesive your paperwork is. Other than that, the only other problems I face have had to do with kind of moving through the world as a business and not just as myself teaching English. So as a business, it's different from being a kind of on-the-side teacher because you've got overhead on the one hand, and you're also presenting yourself in a way that's a little bit different than getting students by word of mouth or through friends. And you'll get people who have no idea who you are coming in the door, or calling on the phone, and messaging you. So you need to have the skills and the presentation to deal with that in a professional way, which is something I'm still kind of working on. It's, you know, it is what it is. And I have confidence because I've worked at other places and seen how they field phone calls and deal with trial lessons. And I also have kind of been the guy on the ground, so to speak, in terms of being in the classroom and teaching students and just having a feel for what's realistic and what's not, so that sense of confidence or being grounded in whatever you're doing transfers. Students can pick up on that. But yeah, you've got a lot more responsibility and a lot more to lose, basically. And that also ties into the issue of boundaries. You need to understand that it's a big mistake to ever go below your bottom line outside of any kind of campaign or special offer. You stand to lose, and it's tempting. It's tempting at first to kind of give in to inquiries or offers that you feel initially are maybe not so good. People will lowball you. They'll offer you what they think is fair without considering, you know, the needs of your own overhead costs and your own salary and the fact that you are running a legit business and you need money. So that part tends to escape people sometimes, and so it's extremely valuable to know when to say no and just be clear about it and saying, sorry, that's not something I can do. And having a contract for your school is a good way to kind of channel inquiries. You know, if they don't fit within the dimensions of your contract, then just say no. It can be kind of hard because you are giving up income, but it's not a chance you should really go for. It takes some getting used to. And I guess the word is business-mindedness. You need to think about what's really going to benefit in the long term versus what's going to be a few thousand yen for the month. So, and the business model of teaching English is nice because once a student signs up, you know, ideally that's going to be money coming in every month for the year, for the next year, you know, potentially for a decade, 2 decades. There are people who study like that. So you need to think long term, and don't be afraid of saying no to something you know won't be a long term reward. And it just takes a certain kind of feeling for it. Well, if you can do that, it doesn't always mean saying no is the end of the relationship. Um, if you're friendly and you're objective about things, it could lead to bigger and better things. And you need just the understanding that you're a business in the back of your mind. And that you're not just you teaching. It's a really crucial difference. And as long as you can kind of maintain that balance, a lot of problems will be avoided. Um, but yeah, I think probably the biggest problems you're going to face starting out are going to be meeting your overhead costs, keeping those to a minimum, building a network, and I mean, realistically, the language barrier is going to be an issue. So personally, what I did before I really started getting serious about setting a date for opening day is I took the JLPT test and went for the second level, the NICU of that. And that is, if you pass that, you're technically hireable in Japan. So that was my mark I aimed for, to give me the feeling like, okay, I can most probably do this. And it really helped me, having that target to aim for really helped me improve my level and just bring things up to a standard where I felt confident enough to do it. And I can kind of keep that in the back of my mind. I was still nervous though about being the only guy running everything and presenting myself to the local people, a lot of whom don't speak any English. So it's an issue, but it's not the impossible wall it might seem to some people. It's just a matter of sustained effort, and my Japanese is by no means perfect, but it's good business level Japanese. I'm able to function on a business level with it. I don't read novels or poetry or anything, and I doubt I ever will. It's just a kind of time factor. I just don't think I'll be on the planet long enough to set enough time aside cumulatively to get there. But that's life. Connection, not perfection, as a pretty well-known podcast likes to say. So that's about it. I mean, problems have been pretty minimal rather. But you never know. It's just a matter of staying engaged, staying on top of what's important, letting the small things slide, and staying positive is really important too. It's stressful. It's not easy starting out, but it's worth it in the end, and it opens up doors that would be very difficult to open any other way. So there it is.